You're running into a problem. You've just opened me up for birth. I've never had that experience of running into a problem. I'm like, yo. And she's just like, Lesoho, work with me. What's wrong? You know, so the doctor said, she ended up having to say, Lesoho, I need you to relax and calm down, because she said I was making my entire body tense up, and that was making their job very difficult. But now, if I'm in this state, she literally said, Lesoho, we cannot continue because you're making your body tense up. You're making our job difficult.
Mama magnified. Mama magnified.
Magnified, yeah. Mama magnified. Mama magnified, yeah. Mama magnified, yeah. Magnified family, how are you? Woo. It's a beautiful, warm, what's today? Midweek afternoon. I just came back from work and I'm like, let me switch on the camera before getting some downtime. I actually was watching a bit of YouTube and TikTok, and I had a very good idea of telling my birth story. I had 2 birth stories. For those who don't know, I do have 2 sons. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old boys. Those who do follow me on socials will know, together collectively I call them Jurassic Park, because wow, it's wild out there. So I just thought, oh man, let me just share a bit of my birth story, because one was traumatic, and then each birth has its dramas, right? So it's 2017. Our first child was, no, not even our first, both of our kids were very much planned, and I do want to add how blessed I feel in that regard, because the more we just expose ourselves, you know, to what everybody is going through, and the more women share on socials what's happening with them, I think the more I've actually even come to understand how it's not a given. I think I'm going to record this video with my glasses off, because yeah, just excuse me if I'm squinting, or yeah. So anyway, both of our boys were very much planned. It's 2016. We finally fall pregnant with our first son. Having said that, I think my husband and I, we did that very, very, very responsible thing of having a very thorough discussion about how ready we are. Anyway, I fell pregnant. I found out very early. I like I said in the previous video where I spoke about Umjolo, I had been wanting to be a mom, I can say all my life, but truly in my 20s, like, it was, the desire was burning like how I'm burning now and sweating, like, and I don't want to switch on the aircon in here because it's gonna make such a noise. So that's why I just poured me some yummy juice here so that I can cool down. I had put a lot of ice, but okay, so now I'm pregnant. Found out at 2 weeks. Seriously, talk about being an eager beaver. Found out at 2 weeks with the clear blue. It said 2 weeks plus. By the time I went to go see the gynae in a few weeks, I was 9 weeks pregnant. But even choosing a gynae wasn't like a given for me, you know. You really have to balance out a lot of things in terms of which gynae you're going to choose. What rates do they charge? How much do they charge at birth? What does your medical aid cover? You know, so I think the pregnancy journey is really, really, really like a very, it's a deep time in your life. There's so many things to consider, so many factors to take in outside of the fact that you are still going to give birth, right? So I remember I asked my sister which gynae she was using, and then I just went with her gynae, right? And her gynae is one of those who charge below the 300% of medical aids, right? Excuse me. Well, below the blue medical aid that I will not mention right now that I was on. So they charged below the 200% mark. So I went with that doctor, and I must say, you know, it seemed okay, but you know, he was one of your most affordable doctors who did take medical aid. Firstly, that's like a plus with a specialist. Like, specialists that take medical aid are a plus. Secondly, there wasn't any like copay with every visit. So like I said, he charged below medical aid rate. So he was able to claim from your medical aid for your consultations, which was a plus, right? Guys, okay, I went, and by then a few of my very close friends had babies already. So every time I would go for my antenatal or for my gynae visits, like, firstly, it was always packed because it's that one gynae that takes like the medical aid. Secondly, it's not one of those where you know your appointment's at 3, you'll be seen around about that time. I know it's not always exact, but it was one of those like we in a Rico public clinic, like there's a lot of us. We're scooting on the bench the whole time. It was one of those like you had to go in the morning. You basically had to take a day off. Like it wasn't even one of those gynae visits where you could just pop in, you know, like work, pop in, go see the gynae, and go back to work. So I'm mentioning this because it'll make sense later when I compare to my 2 birth stories or my pregnancy experiences later. So anyway, with that gynae, yeah, to cut the long story short, when I compared to like some of my friends, it was very subpar. He was doing the basics that a general practitioner could have done, and I realized only like knee deep into the pregnancy, no man, you know. But it's I in hindsight at the end it made sense because essentially because he's charging less, he needs to see a lot more patients in the day for consulting. But obviously when it comes to birth, the hospital charges all the gynaes the same amount because you're all using the same facilities in that same hospital. So I understood only in the end why like it would be a very quick, it didn't feel like a specialist consult. But I'm thankful to God that there were no complications throughout the pregnancy. I just didn't really look forward to the consults because there wasn't any really like proper discussions. It was just like he was checking vitals and that's it. But he was a really nice guy. Yeah, fast forward, we get to the end of the pregnancy. Everything was fine throughout the pregnancy. Checking of the abnormalities was fine. When we got to about 38 weeks, I did gain a lot of weight in this first pregnancy. I think mentally it was just like, yeah, we made it. We're here. We're pregnant. Also with the love of my life. So for me, it was just like a really like soothing moment of victory, you know, like not only am I pregnant, but I'm pregnant by this man that was sent to me and for me by God. Sharp. Guys, within the last 3 weeks, my blood pressure shoots up. Now, you know, with pregnancy, in the last few weeks, you go like every week. So I go, and then at my 38th week visit at the gynae, the doctor says to me, I used to see him by like 4 o'clock because I get he's always full. So I just go in the morning, take out my file, carry on with my day, go back in the afternoon almost to be the last patient because I refuse to just sit there the whole day. So I remember it was around 4 o'clock when in the consulting room and he's just like, dude, your blood pressure is sky high, you know? And he said it is 38 weeks. There's no reason, you know, there's no real benefit of keeping the child anything further. Anything from 38 weeks, we need to take the baby out. So then he's just like, okay, but we're going to induce you. Because remember, if it's your first pregnancy, well, more from a medical aid perspective, you cannot, or they won't allow you to elect a C-section. There always has to be a clinical reason why you're going with C-section. More from a medical aid perspective, right? So you have to prove or show that you did try naturally first before going the C-section route if it's your first pregnancy. At least to my knowledge, back in 2017. Things may have changed. So essentially then, he's like, okay, you guys are gonna have to go back home, pack your things. We're going to induce you in the early hours of the morning, but you have to sleep over at the hospital. So even if you guys come back around midnight, that would be fine. But I need to start the first induction by 3 a.m. Went home, packed my bags, was admitted. Happy was there. I remember he even had like a bad flu that day. He was so sick, guys. Like, it's like, this is the wrong time for your body to be giving up. But I think he was low-key stressed because it is a stressful time. We get into we go home, we pack around 11 p.m. We drive to the hospital. Hubby leaves me around midnight. They say he can come back again in the early morning, you know, 6, 7 o'clock, because there isn't much that's going to happen. Essentially, that's what happened. Get admitted. Obviously, they strap baby and I up. We're in the maternity ward. It's my first experience. But I was low-key hoping for a C-section, guys, because I'm just like, I like the predictability of a C-section. I didn't like the unpredictability of natural birth. And some people say they've labored for 2 days. Some people say 2 hours. Some say, you know, it was just so many variations, and I didn't like the sound of that. But I understood that at the end of the day, it's just a matter of safe baby, safe mommy. Okay. Around, so I was admitted. Okay, it's fine. Nurses come in because they're the ones who do the induction using the gel. They swipe, obviously, your cervix. 3 o'clock they came. I think it's 3 o'clock. Nurse comes in, just to give me a heads up that they're going to be doing the first, administering the first medication for induction. It's a gel. So by the time she did come, okay, she put it in. I wasn't feeling any pains this whole time. She came to do the first administration of that gel. And I think in about only 45 minutes, I started feeling like what felt like period pains, right? Sharp. Hi, okay, guys, she comes, she keeps obviously to swipe and check the cervix. Guys, my cervix is rock hard. This lady's like, yo, dude, your cervix is not moving. Like, it's hard. Even with the progression of like a follow-up administration of the gel for the induction, sharp. The pains were not really getting intense. Well, they were, but it was nothing I couldn't handle, right? It was like period pains. So it was very muscular period pains. Okay, coolio. I'm mentally kisale sharp. Excuse me, guys. I remember at 5:15. So this whole time, because I was admitted in the AMs, like midnight, the ward or the ward we were in, the entire ward and passage, and felt dead quiet. I guess obviously everybody's sleeping. 5:15, guys. 5:15. I remember they started being this lady who let out such a loud shriek, a scream, like that scream from the movies, where uncontrollably you could, just from the pitch of her scream or her voice, you could tell the pain she was in. I was just like, what? Then that messed up my mind. I was just like, oh my word, is this what birth is? Like, I can't. It really messed with my mind. I went into a panic, and now I'm just like, and then when the nurse came, I'm like, yo, is she okay? And then she's like, yo, dude, she's been laboring for a long time. She's not progressing. We're still waiting to hear from her gynae what we should do, but she's been in pain for a long time. But she got a few hours of sleep, which is, I guess, the time that I went into the ward. Guys, I won't lie, like, I internalized her experience and her scream, and I was just like, I don't want to do this natural birth situation, because why am I being a hero? But I understood that it was not up to me. This is an hour of her screaming. Eventually at 6:30, I think they got a hold of her gynae. Her gynae came, and they decided to wheel her off to theater because her baby was struggling eventually. And I was a little bit relieved to not hear her screams, but I was also like a bit jealous. Oh, at least she's now, there's action, there's progression of you're about to give birth. But cut the long story short, Lina, unfortunately, I didn't dilate. The pains did get intense, but not too bad. But they ended up being very intermittent, so they'd come and go. But my cervix was not dilating at all. And I remember when I was young, my mom used to say, my pelvis and the way I'm shaped, like quite curvy. She's like, yo, because she's a nurse, right? So like, yo, your pelvis and how wide it is really going to be good for birth. So I guess that did not help, right? You need a little bit more than a wide pelvis to give birth. And then, guys, I was so relieved. By 7 o'clock, they checked again, cervix hard, and then they got a hold of my gynae. No, they didn't get a hold of my gynae. When they did get a hold of my gynae is at 8:15. This is in the morning now. My son's, so it turns out that the induction or whatever was happening, the contractions were straining my son's heart. It was laboring, his heart was becoming strained. And they're like, no, okay, baby's heart he's not coming to the pot, he's getting tired. So we're going to check with your gynae. They check with the gynae. Gynae's like, nah, we're going to send her off for a C-section. I was like, yes. That's when I was like, I'm going to high five this baby boy that's coming because you saved mama, okay? And then that's exactly what happened. But unfortunately, we waited a bit, for a good still 2 hours of those pains, because when the gynae did eventually come see me, he's like, okay, I'm going to wheel you off to theater, but not now. There's other emergencies, like more emergencies, procedures, C-sections that they're busy with, life-threatening ones, and then they'll come take me when it's my turn. And at 10 o'clock, we were wheeled off to theater, I think around 2:10. And yeah, that epidural with the anesthesiologist was just, but lucky for me, I think my mom prepared me because she is a nurse. She prepared me very thoroughly about, sitting still, listening to everybody in the theater. But I really liked the vibe of theater and how everybody's so relaxed and calm. No one's panicking. Everybody's, in the zone, but not like they don't exhibit the feelings of what you're feeling. So I think it so much sort of equates or equalizes, dilute this anxiety that you're feeling. We get into the theater, and at 10:15, my son was born. Guys, when I tell you, the most exhilarating, that is the one feeling where I felt very close to God, because it felt like, what is happening? Like, is this really me? Like, it's such a tangible experience of God, and that birth was, everything went extremely well. Obviously after like a few minutes, the lactation specialist came for me in the recovery. Baby latched. Like, I had a very good experience of breastfeeding and motherhood with my first child. Sharp. That's the first journey. Okay, sharp. Okay. Jiggy. Okay, Kananelo's. This is my first son's name is Kananelo. That's his birth, right? Sharp. Fast forward, we are in. So we always knew we wanted a second baby, right? That was definite. But my husband had always wanted a girl. I had always just wanted a big family. Although we had only had girls, go high. Now that we had Gani, which was a boy, I was like, yay, as long as I have minimum 3 or 4 kids. My husband had always wanted a girl. So when we got Kananelo and he was a boy, he was just like, okay, yo, listen. Ne? Here's the thing. Our second pregnancy, I really want a girl. But even if it's a boy, we're done. Because he comes from a very small family. He's got an older sister who passed away when he was really young. And then it's him. And then it's his younger sister. But basically, bulk of his childhood, it was just 2 of them. So that's all he knows. Like, he just come. I know, like, my in-laws, they come from a very small, quiet family. But my mates, man, And then, now we come from this big family. I've got 3 sisters, so we're 4 of us. We are loud. We are, it's chaos. So that's what I'm envisioning. And what I really liked about having many siblings is you really sort of didn't need friends, or you guys were a vibe just on your own, because you had enough people to just create anything. You don't need to say, okay, who are we inviting? Who are we going to call to this thing? Okay, fast forward. Now we're like, okay, cool. It's now 2019, 2020, ne? It's Jan, it's Feb. Obviously, Mr. President announces COVID things, they're shutting everything down, we're getting calls from work, don't go to work. And then word already spread before even the 21 days that we might be, our company and the husband that my company works for at the time, the 2 companies we worked for at that time, they were very, very, what's the word? The companies who are really there for their people, they really, really cared for the people. So they were very, very, never tlhokometse their people, man. They were very thoughtful to people. It wasn't just like, you just a number, So I knew that they were going to take the more modest approach of COVID and not like gamble with our lives. And word had already went out that we might be at home for a few months. Then I'm like to my husband, how about we get to that project, baby number 2? Because here's the thing, guys, I'm now calculating that this could be the best time. If I fall pregnant now, by the time we go back to work, I don't know when that will be, I'll still be pregnant, or I would have given birth, and then it's my maternity leave, and then I'll go back to work at the end of Lord knows how many months. And that's what happened. We, again, so thankful and blessed that we planned baby number 2. We decided we're doing this. This is in March now, after lockdown has been announced, and we fell pregnant with our second. And then the gender appointment, where we now find out the gender, and it's another boy. Guys, when I tell you that gender disappointment is real, trust and believe that it is. Because my husband was like, the disappointment was written all over his face. When you can see, like, he just saw a ghost. That's literally how it looked like for him. Because for him, I think because already in his head he had already told himself that this is it, and now it's another boy. I guess it was just like one of those, also you don't have control over that. Anyway, we move over, the pregnancy happens. Now this time was choosing the gynae. I was like, I'm going to proceed with caution here, because I'm not going to repeat the same mistake I made of just choosing anyone based on affordability. It's COVID. Mentally, we are all over the place. It's gonna be tricky because we're not even going with our partners. So I really needed a gynae who was just like gonna walk this journey with me, hold my hand, hold my head, hold my body, hold my yonkindo. Guys, when I tell you the best decision I made, I got a gynae who charges above medical aid rates. You pay cash, just like most of them. But I chose the best gynae to walk this journey with. She is amazing. She is amazeballs. I'm just one of those in my circle. I've referred so many people to her. Shout out to Dr. Ramat's also at Park Lane, Netcare Park Lane in Parktown. That lady is, Kisho, when that lady was born, God was just like, here is the grace of being an obstetrician, because wow. So that pregnancy happened. Obviously it was a bit tricky going to appointments alone without hubby, video calling, all that weird stuff here covered, right? And then when we got closer to, oh, and actually, so this, my plan worked out, right? Because we did end up working from home the whole time. We only went back to work officially in September. And then September, when they're letting everybody go back to work, they also still did this like special population thing where if you have a chronic illness or you like a special population, someone like me, you didn't go back to work or to field like everybody else. You stayed at home and still worked from home because safety. So it happened now when everybody went back to work in September, I stayed at home. So guys, I was home the whole of 2020. I mean, you would think that's crazy because mentally, ooh, fresh air, but it really, really felt like a holiday for me. Very nice. I was home, I'm pregnant, everything's going well with the pregnancy. But I must say, I'm not going to downplay mentally how it really felt like it messed up with your mind so much, because I would think, what if I catch COVID and then my baby and I die? You know, what if I catch COVID, it infects the baby dies inside of me? Like, y'all know how dark that time was, right? So, but my plan worked. I was home the whole year. I was due in December. Sharp. At least I think towards October, November, partners could come into the visits and at least manage to scoop in a few visits inside the gynae. Let's fast forward to the birth, because this is where the drama or the trauma starts. Because now, I don't know if you guys remember, in my first pregnancy, my blood pressure went up towards the end. My gynae did put me on aspirin preventatively throughout this pregnancy. And I forgot to mention that because we were now working from home and I'm trying to avoid getting, you know, gestational hypertension, or what they call, what's the correct term for high blood pressure in pregnancy? Trust a medical rep to forget her medical terms. What is the proper name? Preeclampsia. Preeclampsia. So I didn't want to get preeclampsia, so I exercised every morning because we're working from home. Every morning, wake up, I did a 4 or 5 kilometer walk around the estate, come back, take a shower, start my work at 8 o'clock. So that helped throughout the pregnancy. Blood pressure, all good, controlled, sharp. Now is the day of, now because I've already had a first C-section, this second round of birth is going to be an elective C-section. Okay. So we got to choose a date in December, which I still find very weird, guys. Like, being able to choose the day. That's the only thing I'm jealous about a natural birth. How natural is a natural birth that it really is God who decided, hold on, this child in this moment is going to come. You know, nobody knew or knows that moment. But I guess, yeah, we are here. We choose a date. Guys, on the morning of the birth, obviously we needed to be at the hospital by 6 o'clock. I remember I woke up at 4. Obviously, I hardly slept because your anxiety level are just like, tomorrow's the day. Oh my word, you're praying, then dozing off to sleep, then praying, then dozing off to sleep. And obviously, you know what gentlemen, men are like, guys, now when I come back next round, I want to come back as a man, because those people are stress-free, or they're very practical. Like, he's sleeping. He's like, we'll wake up in the morning. What is the point of being up and overthinking this? So the previous night, I then, because now my second son was born in December, I think I overlooked packing like a thickish blanket. So the night before, I washed one of the thick winter blankets to take with, hung it outside in the washing line. And the house where we were living in there, it's one of those, like, excuse me, the kitchen is up, and then you open the kitchen door, you go down the stairs so that you can go out to like the porch and the washing line situation. I had bathed, I had showered we were gonna leave at 5:15. 4 o'clock I woke up, I had a cup of black tea. I think I was allowed to still have, no, I couldn't have anything from 10 p.m. the previous day. So guys, literally now I'm thinking, okay, let me go get the blanket that washing line the previous night. I opened the door. As I stepped one step on the stairs, did I know, sorry, I forgot to mention, the previous night it was raining, cats and dogs, or it was drizzling, I think. So now I'm worried about this blanket in the morning. I'm like, yo, when did the rain start? So when I open the door, I take one step, and because the stairway is wet, it's slippery, I stepped one step. Well, I didn't realize it was wet. I don't know. Did I not slip and fall like boom, 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 boom? Heavily pregnant, going to give birth that day, and this is happening, and I'm just watching myself roll down like horseman. Hey guys, have you ever rebuked the devil during your fall? You haven't even landed. You don't know if you have safe landing. I was so mad. I was just like, this guy thinks he can come compete with my God, because what stunt is this? I was so mad. Yo. Mad and scared. Like immediately in my head, I'm like, this is a spiritual warfare. Here we at war. But guys, I was so scared, but I somehow landed on my buttocks. Like I landed on my buttocks the whole time. So the stomach stayed in the air, if I can put it like that. I got so scared. Guys, the anxiety, I was generally calm, but the anxiety and the fear kicked in immediately. I've never had fear like that in my life. I've never. When I say I've never had fear like that in my life, guys, please believe me, because that fear that I felt was so crippling. And I knew that this is the wrong time to have fear, not on the day that I'm giving birth, because our bodies react physiologically to our emotions. Our bodies react, but unfortunately it was late for me. Like the fear crept in. Like I think it messed with my mind so much that like I could literally hear the devil being like, yeah, where's this God that you pray? Where did you think you're gonna end up? On the day of your birth, you think I was gonna leave you? Where is this God now? Or like his voices in my head were just like, this is setting up the tone of how the day is gonna end. It's starting so horribly, But as we left the house, my husband and I prayed, and I was just like, Lord, please give me a calm that supersedes my understanding, a calm that is far beyond what I physically am feeling. Just take over, because right now, sembi, ibet lewe. And we left for the hospital. We went, did the paperwork, got admitted, the works, right? Then it was, time to get wheeled off to theater. Okay, this was now around, I was booked for, I think the doctor booked the theater for 12 p.m. So midday. Yeah, midday. We went in. The usual, Miss Anesthetic, the theater nurses. Every that particular team was like even a lot more calm. They were playing music. They were like conversing, especially the music part. It really calmed me down. I can't remember what music it was. It wasn't worship music, but it was music, and music is so therapeutic. They were playing music, and they were also calm, Libana, as well. You can see they work as a team. They're preparing. You're lying there on the bed. The anesthetic has kicked in. But then as they were preparing, as the anesthetic is still doing his thing, and he's supposed to now come, the anesthesiologist comes. And so now, guys, also I'm painting the picture here, right? Immediately, already in my mind is off. I'm just like, wow, this day is off to a horrible start. Everything is horrible. Nothing's gonna go right today, which is the worst thing to think on the day that you're about to give birth, Guys, the anesthetic, I the tantrums, this other devil. Did the anesthetic not come? And he was trying to find a vein. I think it was when we were still in the prep room. I can't remember. No, it was, firstly, when have doctors ever been the ones in charge for the vein? Because that's usually a nurse's spillion. Though nurses know I know my mother's a nurse. We know what job everyone's allocated to. I don't know how or where or how the anesthetic was trying to get a vein, but also he's just doing his job, so I'm not gonna be there and act brand new. You know, I'm under their care. Guys, cut the long story short, the way this guy poked me many times and end up messing up, and he bent the needle while trying to damage control, and then he ends up calling the nurses to come help. I'm just like, what? I just had this voice saying, what? We told you, ain't nothing gonna go right in this birth. Guys. But then my fear is so heightened. Like, guys, now I'm not even gonna lie and like make it seem like, oh, so come. I was so fearful. And remember, I'm already comparing it to my first experience, so I know how smooth it can go, or how smooth I've had it, you know, generally smooth. Now this needle is bent. It is so painful. I don't struggle with veins. I donate blood all the time. I'm not one of those people who they struggle to get veins. So I don't know how that guy messed it up, but I was mad at him. He was apologizing profusely, but I think I was also upset at him because he was now feeding this thing that was in my head. Now the needle is bent. He's trying to take it out. I don't know what he was doing. Eventually he calls a theater nurse. They fix it. I'm bleeding a lot. Guys, we haven't even started the procedure, mind you. Then eventually one of the doctors or the surgeon, remember now in a C-section is the anesthesiologist. It's the surgeon who works with your gynae, because the gynae is the surgeon is the one who's like, they co-piloting almost, you know, they're collaborating on the surgeon's the one who's doing the actual surgery, and then the gynae, the ops and gynae is the one who's going to birth the baby, but you need both of them there. So the surgeon obviously is just like, and then he comes to me, he's like, you know, ma'am, your doctor's on the way, we done with all the prep and stuff, she'll be here just now. But guys, by then the way my fear is on 400%, I start going into a panic, because now I'm just like, you know what, the only thing I need right now is my gynae. I need a familiar voice, I need a familiar person, because this fear is doing a number on me, you know. And the minute they say she's running late, she's coming, it's just like, well, now I've got that list that I'm adding on. Oh, you see, now your gynae is late, you see, she's not coming. Or you see, you're gonna end up getting a substitute gynae. You see that, you see voice is going at me, guys. It's going. Eventually my gynae gets there, and guys, she literally, her voice sounded like an angel's voice. I could hear her. She's a very chatty, loudish, she's not loud, but she's a chatty person, you know, way papela. So I could hear her voice from Asansana again, and the relief, guys, of hearing, you know, just like knowing, okay, this is the one person who I walked this pregnancy journey with, you know, I can say as intimately as with my husband. It was my husband and her that, you know, I managed to conquer a 2020 COVID pregnancy because of these two people, God and then him. I hear her voice, a bit of relief, she comes in, the procedure starts. So obviously, I don't know if you guys know, with your second C-section or third or fourth, whatever, when they cut you up, they cut the original incision that you have, you know. So the first one, where the last gynae sewed or closed up, they cut that incision. To give you guys context, I am in the medical field, so when they start the procedure now, I don't know where I am, I don't know where my mind's at, but I was just relieved she's here, and I'm just like, let's be finished. So my gynae and the surgeon then start opening me up, and it's so gooey, because as they like burning your skin, I'm smelling, you smell the smell of like a tire, like that burning thing they open up. But guys, as they are opening me up, the medical terms that the gynae and the surgeon used just got me out of my zone. I'm like, what? So they ended up opening me up, and then I hear my gynae say, okay, we've run into a problem. You're running into a problem? You've just opened me up for birth. I've never had that experience of running into a problem. I'm like, yo. She's like, we're running into a problem. And then they're like, debilitating. What should we do? Should we, you know, now they've got a challenge before they can even start giving birth. So they opened me up, and it turns out that my previous gynae, basically, he didn't put back my organs properly. My organs are muddled up. By the time they cut, they ran almost into cutting my bladder. So this guy put all my organs back in a not proper way. And there was basically, next to the bladder, So they almost cut the bladder, and they basically ended up seeing that things were not in place the way they should have been. Now they need to fix whatever that guy saying messy before they can continue with the birth. And I can hear them planning to say, okay, let's do this. Maybe, now they have run into project A before they can do the main project of giving birth. Guys, I can't explain to you what ended up happening in my head when I heard that. I was just like, Wabon. That voice was like, Wabon. Guys, I went into a panic. Then I blacked out. And I only hear from my gynae and my husband what ended up happening throughout that. Because the only thing I remember is ended up going into like a zone of humming. Like when I'm in big panic or pain, like when I'm doing my pap smear, I'll just go, So apparently I kept doing that but like it kept escalating. Now my gynae is worried about me because when she looked at me, she's just like, this girl's not here, and she's just like, listen, work with me, what's wrong, So basically, to cut the long story short, she explained to me at my 6-week checkup that I got a panic attack during birth, because the last thing I remember is them discussing this now problem that they have. This first gynae didn't do the things handling, but they managed to fix that very quickly. Thank God that God gave these doctors wisdom to do what they needed to do. And Anesu was born very healthily. He cried, he came out, but I was already lights out psychologically. I was in a panic attack. I was apparently saying things that don't make sense. I was, and apparently doctor said, she ended up having to say, listen, I need you to relax and calm down, because she said I was making my entire body tense up, and that was making their job very difficult. And remember, they still had to conquer this whole thing of putting the organs back where they need to be, so that they can carry on with taking the baby out. Now, if I'm in this state, she literally said, listen, we cannot continue because you're making your body tense up, you're making our job difficult. And I remember I could not help it, guys, because I was just like, Lord, no, not now, but I think it's also just that thing of what you feed your mind and how your body responds. It's really true, because from the time that I fell on the stairs at 5 a.m. in the morning, I already fed my mind that this day is off to a bad start and it's going to get worse, And I'm so grateful that even in all of that, the 3 years that I spent with organs that were not chilling properly, I firmly believe was, God, obviously, because I'm still healthy. I still do my routine checkups. How come nothing went wrong? But guys, that birth was so traumatic, because when I did eventually come out of it, firstly, the pain of a second C-section was horrible. I remember I was upset at my sister and my friends who had 2 babies. I'm like, you guys didn't tell me about how painful a second C-section is. And that's part of, I think, the second pillar of Mama Magnified, how it came, because I thought if someone had just shared this, I would have been less anxious, because I sort of would have had an idea of what others have experienced. But my second birth, guys, was so traumatic in that regard, because imagine being opened up and they're like, ooh, we got a problem here. And I think it was also the barrier of me comparing to my first C-section, because sometimes the power of knowledge becomes your problem. I think we're losing natural light. I need to hurry up with this video, but I am finishing up anyway. That was the experience of my birth, guys, my second birth, and it was traumatic. It was scary. It was mentally, it was just a lot. And I think maybe the being pregnant and COVID could have counted as well. I do potentially want a third baby. My husband's very lukewarm about it, if not cold. Now I'm past lukewarm. I'm just like, not closer to 40. But I'm just grateful to God that outside of those births, my children are like good, my body is good. Would I do it again? Yes, because we need to be fruitful and multiply. But yeah, guys, I think that's about it, man. I just thought, let me share my birth story and see who it'll help. And yeah, I think we must keep sharing. Hopefully see you guys on the flip side of a third baba, and if not, I'll still be good. But I think if we do have a third baby, I definitely don't want it to be planned. I want God to surprise us. So if you guys see me do a pregnancy announcement, you must know, okay, God over surprise you. Thank you. It definitely won't be something that's super planned, I think. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining me on my dramatic birth story, my traumatic birth story, where my organs were just like, ta-da! See you guys on the next video. Mama Magnified, Mama Magnified, Mama Magnified,